There's something strange about the war within, and it's this. Why are we in Khaz Algar? I mean, sure, Xal'atath lured us there, but big picture, what is it? Why is it there? Why is there a core way to the World Soul? That seems a bit risky. Why are there mushroom people in the dungeons? This stuff was whirling around my head. And then something happened. I bumped into this NPC, and then I did a side quest. And when that happened, the puzzle pieces clicked. I flew from top to bottom, and as I did, it all made sense. So today, let me take you on that journey. By the end, you'll know what's really going on. Flying above Dornegal, I found a cave, and in the cave, a tree. Beside the tree, a Fae-sworn earthen. Fae-sworn, they're a bit different. They're a different sect, and there's only a handful of them in Dornegal. Scour the Isle and you'll find loads of them who are decommissioned. So rather than treat them as random background NPCs not to think about, I decided to work out everything that's going on with them. And that's where the side quest Frayed Legacy kicked off a chain reaction. You meet a Fae-sworn, and we are told this. We of the Wold Guard uphold an ancient promise to Freya to tend to these lands. Our edicts are older than those wielded by the demagogues in Dornegal. Older than Dornegal itself. Yes, Dornegal, the city built to defend the Coreway. They are there, they have a job before that exists. These words unlock absolutely everything. Let me explain. Freya is the Titan Keeper of Life, and we actually save her during Wrath of the Lich King. Now, she's responsible for much of Azeroth's life. Places like Sholazar Base and Ungoro Crater, she played a hand in whatever the Titans did with the Emerald Dream, and she did all of that in service to Aeonar, the Titan, the Lifebinder, who basically is her boss. But what really matters is the Fae-sworn's edict is older than Dornegal. That raises a question. Why would Freya have been there before Dornegal? What was there before Dornegal existed? The answer lies in a story called The Legend of Eluna here, and by studying this and exploring Khaz Algar, everything makes sense and falls into place. And funny enough, exploration is also a perfect fit for today's sponsor. We're Porkbun, where I've got a deal and a lesson. Now, Porkbun are named the top domain registrar by USA Today for 2023 and 24, and today they're running a hell of a deal on .world domains, under $2 for the first year. $2. Now, .world is perfect for so many brands, and here's the real killer reason why. So many brands think they need to use a .com, and because of that, they end up having a real rubbish domain. And a great example of this is nothing.tech. It is an absolutely perfect URL for their brand, and if they had to do .com, it would be impossible. It just wouldn't work as well. And that's where this deal on .world could be a branding and customer perspective superpower for you. So, does your brand have a global audience? Do you appeal to a nature or environment-loving audience? Try to be creative, think a bit differently, because a .world domain opens up opportunities that are literally impossible on .com. And Porkbun is the place to go and manage and acquire your domains. Things like Whois Privacy, SSL certificates, web and email hosting trials, they are free, not upcharged like the others do. And actually using Porkbun is dead easy because of their simple, clear UI. It all comes backed by personalized 5-star support 365 days a year, so you can get a .world domain, one that will allow you to craft your brand better and stand out against the generic soup of regular domains everyone's used to, so that you can stand out and get your message to your audience. It's less than $2 a year for the first year at Porkbun. Just check out the link and the code down in the description, and thanks to Porkbun for supporting our team. We first need to understand the legend. The legend of Eluna here is found within the heart of the Emerald Dream, and it tells us of strife between the Titans. Millennia ago, the Titans reach Azeroth, but they find that she is deeply infested by the old gods. Aman'Thul, leader of their pantheon, reaches down, grasps the greatest of these old gods, Yasharj, and tears it from the planet's crust. An easy kill for a being like Aman'Thul, but Yasharj had grown deep, woven itself into the crust of the world. So in ripping it out carelessly, Aman'Thul wounded Azeroth. Her lifeblood would surge through that wound, forming what would later become the Well of Eternity. And later still, at the end of a great war between the Night Elves and the Burning Legion, well, a big explosion. And now it's the Maelstrom found in the center of the world map. With Amenthul's action, one old god lay dead, but Azeroth could not take another wound like that, so the Titans created the Keepers, and to serve the Keepers, the Watchers, and the various different Titan-forged beings. Those are the likes of the Earthen that we meet in The War Within, the Mogu from Pandaria, the Iron Vrykul, and the Earthen that we met in Wrath of the Lich King. All those beings would wage war against the remaining old gods, and that essentially was the Titans' plan to save Azeroth. But it was not the only idea, and that's what brings us to today's myth. It tells us that Eonar, the Binder of Life, by her title, along with her lover Elune, planted Azeroth's first world tree, called Elune here. The hope was that this world tree would fend off the old god corruption, that it would sort of nourish the world soul, help heal it. Face value, that makes sense, but then Amenthul, leader of the Titans, found out about it and he was enraged. He declared that it is not order, and he rips the tree right from the earth. He thought that his action and his declaration was enough, that the others would just obey him because they're Titans, they're ordered, it's what they do. So he tended to other matters, leaving a distraught Eonar to herself. 3 things happen. First, Eonar's tears fall to the earth. Second, she looks close and she realizes that not all is lost, for some roots remain. And third, she betrays Amenthul. Amenthul made his position clear. When she found out about the roots, she chose not to tell him. Instead, Eonar tasked Freya, her top lieutenant, who I mentioned earlier, with protecting those roots. And so now you see how this all makes sense. Freya would obviously not be doing that herself. She would be doing it with her Faceworn. You might be wondering, what roots? I haven't noticed any roots. Don't worry, I'm going to explain everything, and we're going to do it by traversing Khaz Algar from top to bottom. Starting the Isle of Dorn, our Faceworn fit in perfectly. They tell us they serve Freya, and that their edict is older than all the other ones, which does make a lot of sense. It means they've been there since the beginning, since before Dornogal and the Coreway. And that means that Dornogal and the Coreway are a bit strange when you think about them. If the capture of Azeroth is your literal worst-case outcome, as it is for the Titans, you wouldn't build a shortcut straight to the World Soul. That would be stupid. But as the clues come together today, we're actually able to deduce that the Coreway and Dornogal are built around the wound left when Amenthul tore out Elune here. That explains why there's a giant tunnel right to the bottom, and it explains the Oathsworn's die-hard conviction to the defense of the Coreway. It is literally one of the biggest vulnerabilities on the whole world. And better still, when we dig through more side quest lore, we learn that Dornogal, the Coreway, and all that we see was built by another keeper, Arcadeus. And with that, it all fits. Freya has Earthen protecting the roots. Then, the keepers in general realize, okay, there's a risk here. They have the Earthen build the city and defend the Coreway, and then co-opt the Faceworn into their edicts. Thus far, there's one thing in this video that may be a bit strange to you. I'm treating the Coreway like it's really important, but whenever you play The War Within, you just fly down the Coreway, it's not that deep, and you go into another zone. Well, keep the myth in mind and keep your eyes peeled. Yes, the Coreway as we traverse it is not deep. It definitely doesn't reach the World Soul. Go to the very bottom, snoop around, and you see that that's not its bottom. You see that the Coreway is just blocked with rubble. It's just full of material. There is clearly a broken elevator, and the best that we're able to do is to go to that bottom and then basically go on an exit shaft that leads us to the Ringing Deeps. And of course, if you think back to the start of this expansion, what happened? The Nerubians did a surprise attack on the Coreway, leaving it heavily damaged. So just thinking about the lore, the legend of Elune here, and going around the Isle of Dorn, we now understand that this region is the wound left by Amenthul, and we also understand what the Faceworn are, that they are essentially Freya's people. You might be thinking then, well, Michael, you talked about tears and you talked about roots. And if you've been in Azj-Kahet, you may have noticed a few roots. Well, let's travel there, and as we do, a lot of things are going to click. I flew down the Coreway, I went to the Ringing Deeps, and I hugged the wall on the left, making for Hallowfall. And glancing to my left, I noticed water dripping, mist and water pouring from the rock. Then, as you get near Hallowfall, you see it form stream, and then stream leads to river. Follow the river, you enter Hallowfall proper, and you notice it all goes to one place. That place is called the Hungering Pit, which is rather ominous. But then something else comes to mind. Compare all of this in the map and you see it's very close to where the waterworks are located. And on face value, it's the waterworks, earthen machinery. They need to purify the water. But do you remember the Dragonflight expansion with the Halls of Infusion, which were all about Titan-forged beings interfering with the natural order by infusing the water? So I'm suspicious about the waterworks. But that's a tangent. Back to where we've been, in the Hungering Pit. If you're there and you look towards Bellular, you of course see other waters flowing into the pit from the Undersea. That makes us think about the Undersea. What is the Undersea? Why did Bellular implant itself there? And big picture, the legend of Eluna here. I'm going to read one little bit from it. Aenar wept bitter tears that rained down upon the resulting crater. Below ground, the roots fed upon the tears of Aenar and grew strong. A crater was mentioned. Well, go to Hallowfall. Look at the cavern. Seems to me that could absolutely be the crater. And big picture, we have a myth talking about the tears of a god. When we go there, what do we see? Water everywhere, including the Undersea. It's exactly what we would expect. Just that, not really, because nothing was said of the dark creatures that we would encounter when we go there. Leviathans fly high above the Undersea. They regularly attack Arathi vessels. Cobus attack from the shores. I thought back as well to the peculiar fish quest, and how after using us to escape, the fish gives us thanks, transforms into a Leviathan-like creature, and swims away along with another big Leviathan. And it says that it hates the crystal's light. There's absolutely more to this line of inquiry. People who played during Cataclysm may even remember Ozumat, the big Leviathan-like thing that was all god-associated. It's a mystery for another day, but it's one that makes a key point for this video. There are strange void creatures from the deep, right? The void is there. There is Bellular, some strange light crystal thing that is there. There's the Arathi Emperor's vision, which has drawn them to this place. And then we think to ourselves, why is this place remarkable? Why does it matter? Why here instead of any other bit of Azeroth? And the only thing that makes sense is the impact, the fallout of what happened as told in the legend of Eluna here. And so when I leave the Hungering Pit and I fly towards Ashkahet, I notice more rivers, fresh ones, that form from sources high above the ground. So I follow those as they go to Ashkahet, and that's when the legend of Eluna here truly clicks. I see the land grow more twisted, and then it's obvious. Right in front of me, gigantic roots. I fly on, and then I find this structure. It's grand, it's green, and looking up, I see a humongous cave. So I fly up to investigate to see what's up there, only for the game to deny me. Green overtakes my screen, and then my character wakes up in a place called the Ruptured Lake. Pretty odd, but it's just like what happens if you fly beyond the bounds of the Emerald Dream. Pretty much, green overtakes you, and you wake up somewhere else. That means that the power of life is strong here, and that makes sense. Think about Aenar, think about Elune, think about Eluna here. Flying further then, I pass more routes, and I come to something that's a bit different. It's another pit. It's called the Breathing Pit. Nature seems to give way to flesh, and travelling inside, I find black blood everywhere, along with equipment used to extract it. Step in that black blood, and you get a buff called Unseeming Shift. At 100 stacks of the buff, an achievement flashes on my screen, the Unseeming, and it calls the place I'm in the Maddening Deep. Look around, though, and I see the same routes that I passed earlier. They've clashed. They've clashed with the black blood that Ansorex and Erubians have been mining. They've been mining it, they've been spreading it, and they've been using it to fuel their ascensions. I then exit the Breathing Pit, thankfully, follow the routes, and I end up in a place called Camp Orlais. The camp is lush. Wandering around, I see two Haranir, these mysterious defenders of the roots whose leader, Orwena, we met during the campaign. And this is where it all clicks. Xal'atath dragged us here, we defeated her, and it sure seems that she'll be gone for a while. Also, we know that the next expansion, Midnight, is going to be the ultimate clash of light and void, so if we just had more Xal'atath void shenanigans for the rest of the War Within, it would obviously get a bit boring. But it all makes sense. Look around the War Within. We see the light. We see strange mushroom people. We see the black blood. We see all of these things that aren't just Xal'atath and the Void. Much of the Earthen story is rooted in them becoming their own people and perhaps realizing that, they were foot soldiers, tools of the Titans. And that means that none of this is odd. Khaz Algar exists because of a Titan disagreement that opened the way, via Aman'Thul ripping out a Luna here, to the World Soul. The World Soul is the one thing that everybody wants to claim. It is what this trilogy of expansions is named after. And the strife goes beyond Aenar and Aman'Thul. We, as an example, fight a Titan construct that is there to wipe out the Earthen should they stray from their path. We discover that those same Earthen killed a Keeper in their past. So, how Xal'atath used this region for her plan is absolutely obvious. It's a massive weak spot, but it also explains why the Bellular happened to land there, or perhaps was fired there. It probably also explains whatever the hell is going on within the Undersea. You ultimately see that everything converges here at a weak spot in Azeroth. This entire expansion explained by a simple flight from top to bottom, along with understanding from a few side quests and an ancient legend. It was satisfying when this all came together for me, but there's one more thing. Casting my mind back to the War Within's opening cinematic, Orwena feels a bit off, a bit weird. I mean, the animation that they put into that must have been expensive, which is strange. She's an NPC we only spend single-digit minutes with during the main campaign, and that is what most players will see. It doesn't make sense until you realize that Xal'atath is not the only thing we'll deal with in this expansion, but also when you remember the Whispers. That's because for years, one of Il'Ganot's final prophecies has not fit. That is, until right now. Yeah, next time we're going to talk about the Haranir. It goes deeper than most think. And if you would like to learn everything Xal'atath did off-screen, everything that we did not see in between BFA and Dragonflight, all the things she did to make her trap work, watch this video next.